Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to my channel, Soul Journey. My name is Becca Himza, and today I want to talk about learning how to navigate with our internal compass. I think this is a really important thing for us to start being very mindful of, and I just want to talk a little bit about it and how I feel like we can utilize it. So, for decades, for hundreds of years, we have kind of gone along, at least people who are disconnected from the earth, people who are disconnected from their internal guidance system, have kind of seen emotions and things like that to be very hectic. And also for our feelings to be kind of these random things to be overcome, and that they're kind of there for like no reason. They almost make things more difficult. And I feel like it's been kind of like being on a boat in the middle of the ocean, and there's been a compass there the whole time. But because the captain and the crew don't really know how to utilize it or what it's for, they're just like, oh, when we turn the boat, this thing just spins around. We don't really know what it means, but like, it doesn't really do anything for us. It doesn't really help. And that's how we've been basically guiding our lives, is we've been very... we do have that, like, we talk about like the gut feeling and things like that, but most people basically just disregard feelings as chemical something that's going on. And now that we're starting to come out of the emotional dark age, we're starting to realize, like, oh, our bodies are brilliant pieces of biological machinery, and everything is there perfectly, and they're extremely finely tuned equipment for exploring the 3D. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about this internal compass, because I think people are starting to grasp that there is more we can kind of utilize to navigate. But oftentimes we're still going to others for their internal guidance system, like psychics and readers and spiritual teachers. And it's like, oh, well, you seem to know what the past should look like, so I'm going to go to you for that. And I think now that we're coming into, we're in 2020, the year of clarity, understanding our own personal truths. Like, you can go to anyone, well, not anyone, but some people are not tapped in, or they're willing to just tell you what you want to hear. But you can go to someone else to, have clarity. But it's still going to be through the filter of them. They're still going to be channeling it. They're still going to be using specific words. And then you're going to filter what they say. And the best way to really get the best guidance system is to get it directly from your soul stream, from your source, from your guides, and to be able to translate it for you, because you are going to be the best person to navigate what you're feeling. If it goes through several filters, you might not get that same pure information. Just like if something's been translated many times, the message is going to get kind of fuzzy. That's why channels, the more tapped out the channel is, the better the message can be, and the more that can flow. But it's still channeled through the filters of that person's vocabulary and things like that. So the best way to channel your personal guided information is for you to do it yourself. And this can be honed, and you can definitely go to teachers and people who have honed that skill to learn what that feels like. And that's really, really important, because oftentimes it's subtle at first until you really hone it and you work that muscle and you go like, oh, okay, that's what that feels like. And it can be really good to have that validation from someone else who has honed it, and you go, oh, so that's what it feels like. So that can be a really good process to go through on your journey. But I think the ultimate goal is that you find your own compass. You understand that you have your own personal internal compass, and that it is there, and that it is always speaking to you. So our feelings are our body's way of telling our emotional feelings, our physical feelings, is our body's way to, and our soul's way to tell us when we are in or out of alignment. And I think it really makes a lot of sense, because when when your skin is fine and awesome, it feels normal and fine. But if you start slicing it apart, it's gonna hurt, because you're pulling yourself apart. Like, if you're pulling yourself apart, it's not gonna feel great. And what's happening when you feel emotionally off, and this can be anywhere from like all the way from to like depression to just feeling like off and whatever, like whatever that is, or on the other side, feeling, semi good to like feeling like so in flow and so in your passion and so in your excitement. There's this range, right? And that feeling of deep connection, love, joy, satisfaction, and appreciation is the highest vibrations. And that is like source frequency and, oneness. And that vibration is your truest essence. That's your soul stream. That's your natural state. And then as we come down into the third dimension, or whatever dimension we're in, but we're talking about the third dimension right now, we experience duality. First of all, we have, spiritual aspect and we have the physical aspect. They are the same thing. The physical is a projection of the spiritual, but the energetic, but we are experiencing it as separate. We don't feel necessarily that it is one unless we're like fully in alignment with that. So we come into this space of duality, and then we learn through contrast how to get back in alignment with ourselves, because we've kind of split ourselves apart and now we're like coming back together. And so when you are in alignment with your truest soul stream, you are feeling perfectly blissful. Everything's in alignment. Everything's flowing. When that energy and your physical perspective start to diverge, you start saying like, oh, us and them, or I am not loved, or anything that isn't in alignment with this belief system that your truest soul essence is always in alignment with, you kind of start splitting yourself. And just like in the physical, when you cut yourself, this is going to create pain and anxiety and depression because you're essentially pulling yourself apart. So the way we can determine if something's out of alignment is, do I feel uncomfortable? Do I feel emotionally charged? Do I feel tense? Do I feel restricted in my body? Does this feel good? And conversely, if you start moving towards beliefs that are more in alignment with oneness, love, wholeness, connection, do you start feeling better? Possibility, endless, infinite possibilities, all that. You're going to start feeling really good, and you're going to start lining up with that. And so you're going to start feeling really good. So the idea is that when you're feeling really good, you're in alignment with your wholeness. And that means you're on the path. You're in alignment, which means you're going to attract things of the same vibration, which is, infinite awesomeness. And as you split yourself away from that, and you start feeling bad, you're going to start experiencing a reality that is disconnected and uncomfortable and in lack. And it's so cool because our reality, our universe, is a mirrored universe. So we have so many tools to navigate if we're in alignment or not. And we've never really been taught this. We've always been, taught to disregard our hectic feelings, do what someone else says. And that's always kind of an interesting thing because, they say you're selfish for doing what feels good to you. But when they say that, that's just because they want you to do what's going to make them feel good. And so, it's just kind of like ironic there. So oftentimes, we tell someone, oh, do this instead because it'll make me feel better, instead of understanding that it's a reflection of whatever's going inside of you. Maybe you're not getting a need met because you don't feel like you can get that need met within yourself. And some of this is subconscious and some of this is conscious. And as you start exploring the feelings and sitting with the feelings and not judging them, but saying like, okay, I'm not feeling good right now. Taking a deep breath, feeling into that feeling. It's like, okay, where is it in my body? Like, how does that correspond with it? My different energy centers. Is it in the heart? Is it in the solar plexus? Is it in the third eye? Like, where is that feeling coming from? How can I navigate that? And then you can start shifting your attention to beliefs and thoughts and patterns that are more in alignment with oneness. And you're going to start bringing yourself back into this whole state, which is, of course, going to feel so much better, right? So it's really, really powerful to start mindfully engaging in your feelings in every moment. And at first, it might seem like a lot because you're like always like, oh God, what am I feeling? But after a while, when you start having like an uncomfortable feeling or a belief come up, you'll go, oh, okay, that's uncomfortable. Why is that uncomfortable? And go, oh, like that that must not be in alignment with my truest essence. And so you can start navigating these, and you can kind of catch that belief, because what usually happens is we'll have a thought and then we won't really pay attention to the thought, and then we're just feeling crappy. So if you start mindfully becoming aware of like, oh, I don't feel good, what was I just thinking? And you go, okay, that thought seems to not be in alignment with my truest essence, my inner being, my higher being, whatever you want to call it, in the vortex, as Abraham calls it. Now you can go, okay, that belief seems to be off. Now, if you really believe that feeling, really deeply believe that, you can go, okay, that must not be in alignment with oneness. So then you can start navigating that belief and then say, okay, so like if I believe that everything's one, like how does that differentiate from that? And how can I kind of start like seeing things in a different way? Or how can I start navigating that and come into more awareness of how there is oneness and how maybe that belief isn't serving me? And same with the good stuff. If you're like in a passionate state and you're like feeling really good and connected, to go, okay, what feelings am I feeling now? And what thoughts am I feeling now? And these must be in alignment. This must feel really good. And it is important to hone your awareness. And as you start feeling good towards things, you'll start recognizing those things. But we do have fractures. So it is important to understand that sometimes what feels like relief can be relief in a direction that may not feel like relief in the moment, but in the long run may not be like the healthiest belief. But that's still better than the separated belief and the disconnected belief. So that belief, even if it's not the healthiest, is still going to guide you towards more connected things. So it's okay to not be like all the way at joy. You can kind of, like as Abraham would say, like seek out the better feeling thoughts. So if you're feeling really depressed, maybe seek out just a slightly better feeling thought and go like, okay, well, I feel really, really bad right now, but there is this beautiful thing I can look at. Or maybe it's what's cool is like I do have a roof over my head, or I do have, and you just kind of start adjusting it, and it's kind of like finely tuning a dial, right? And like starting to look at the compass and go, okay, as I turn slightly, things are coming to be a bit more north. And this is not something that's easy right away. It can be easy if you really engage with it, but gently allow yourself to just become more and more aware of those feelings. And as you get more and more sensitive, you'll notice that as soon as that feeling comes in, you go, oh, okay, I need to adjust. And you'll start noticing that as you keep aligning yourself, I kind of, like a chiropractic, one of the councils talked about how getting in alignment is kind of like going to the chiropractor. It's when you first start going to the chiropractor, you have to go back a lot, several times a week even, to readjust because your back is used to being in a certain position. But as you get more and more aligned, you don't have to go back to the chiropractor as much. And so then you can get it down to going once a month, a couple times a year. And you're realigning yourself and you're getting yourself used to that new alignment. And so as you practice that, it's going to be easier and easier and easier to get into that good feeling alignment and getting into the vortex, as Abraham talks about, or integrating in with your higher self, like Teal talks about. And it's really about creating oneness, right? Oneness between your physical and your spiritual self. Oneness between your you and what's outside of you, perceived outside of you, coming together in oneness. It's always about coming back. So if you're feeling like there's a separation, if you're saying like, oh, it's out there, or that person over there, or whatever, you'll start to notice that as you become more aware, when you're having those feelings, you start feeling restricted. And as you say, like, oh, that's another me. Oh, you start having compassion for that person because you understand there's more to the story, because there's always more to the story. As you come into that more oneness belief system, same with abundance, same with really anything, you're going to start noticing that you just feel more expansive, and you'll start recognizing that feeling. And because it feels so good, once you start honing it, you'll just want to come back to it. You'll want to come back to it. And that, when you're in that really in flow stream, things will just happen. And so things will just get better and better and better. And obviously, like, you'll learn new things, and you'll come across new things and deeper beliefs and patterns, and you'll go, oh, okay, maybe not so much. And so that contrast can be good, because it, instead of seeing it as, oh, that's uncomfortable, you can say, oh, thank you for being uncomfortable so I can get back on track. And you'll start even finding approval for the discomfort, because you'll understand it's important to get yourself back on track. It's all a part of your finely tuned system. It's kind of like if you're driving in the car and you know, like there's those like bumps on the side of the road on the highway. When you start drifting off, it's loud and it's like jarring when you go and your tires run over them and it's loud, but it helps you get back on. Or say there's a beeper in your car that when you start going off the road, the beeper would start going off. Instead of turning off the beeper with, drinking or taking medication or, and obviously like it's important to guide yourself into this slowly. If you're taking medication, don't just like get off medication, make sure you take the necessary steps. But you'll start noticing as you start guiding yourself and understanding that these signals are important and you just don't want to numb them. You can utilize them to get back on track. You can start utilizing them and you don't see them so much as a burden, but rather as that signal go, oh wait, I'm off. I need to navigate what I'm feeling, what I'm believing, and maybe start navigating that, which is very, very exciting. So instead of trying to turn that alarm off because it's uncomfortable, go, oh, the alarm's there for my use, and now I can readjust. And I think so many of us have gotten so comfortable in the feeling of discomfort that we don't even recognize that we're feeling uncomfortable. And so we very unconsciously numb ourselves, and that could be shopping, that could be video games, that could be, and for some people those things aren't a numbing thing, they just enjoy it, but a lot of these things can also be used as, to numb ourselves from the discomfort. And so it's important to also notice what those tendencies are. Like when you're feeling uncomfortable, what do you gravitate towards? Maybe it's food, maybe it's drinking, maybe it's drugs, whatever it is. Just note it and go, okay, am I numbing that feeling because I don't want to feel it? And could I maybe use it as a way to navigate myself back? And again, be gentle with yourself. If you've really leaned into one of these things, you don't want to just cut off cold turkey. It's important that you take the process and slowly allow yourself to get back into alignment. And then you might find down the road, you're like, wow, I've come so far. Maybe I don't need this crutch. And that can be really, really exciting. So obviously be gentle with yourself. If you are under the care of a doctor for any of these types of things, always check in with them and say, hey, I'm trying this thing out. Can we maybe navigate me back to, using less of whatever? Maybe it's a drug you're using, or maybe it's a dietitian to help you with a better diet, or maybe you want to have someone help you manage finances, whatever it is. You can always ask for help, and you can always be assisted in that. You're not alone. You can always reach out to other beings who can assist you in those things. And that can be really powerful as you start learning your system. And then, eventually down the road, you might go, oh, I get this. Just like when you first start driving a car, it's like scary and you don't know what you're doing. And then, 10 years, down the road, you're like, oh, I could do this in my sleep. Don't drive in your sleep. It's a terrible idea. But you start learning how to do it. And after a while, it becomes second nature. So allow yourself time to evolve into that and get to know your system. That's really important. You don't want to just jump in. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who, that's great and they would do awesome. So, just feel it out. What feels best to you, and don't overtax yourself. But, it's always that kind of like, okay, I'm not feeling good, or, oh, I'm feeling good. Where am I at? And you can kind of navigate that, because just like being, when they're in a plane, they can't really see where they're going. There's not a lot. They use all of their tools and their navigational systems to know where they're going. They're not actually seeing it out here. Just kind of like our eyes, we can't navigate our path, through our eyes unless you're, clairvoyant or whatever. But just like in a plane, there's so many tools you can utilize to know where you're at. And that's where your feelings come in. That's where all of those systems work. And it's really cool that we're so finely tuned to be able to do that. So it's really time to start going, okay, what is this desk? What are all these buttons? What are all these screens? And start navigating our own internal guidance system so that we can navigate our path in a more smooth, pleasant, and exciting and growth-minded way. So I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, definitely comment them down below. And if you want to see any more videos like this in the future, comment that down below as well, and give it a like and hit subscribe if you want to see more of this. And if you would like a personal reading with me, you can head down to my description. I have my Etsy shop where I have personal tarot readings and other spiritual tools to help you along on your journey if that interests you. I have my second channel, The Taurus Babe, and my other social media platforms like my Instagram and my Patreon. And thank you so much to my patrons. Ayden, I just got it going, so that's really exciting. So if you want to go check out my Patreon, that is also in the description down below. So thank you so much for checking those out if that resonates. And yeah, thank you so much. And if you join the family, awesome. If you're already part of the family, awesome. If you don't join the family, awesome. So many blessings on your journey, and thank you for stopping by. Many blessings, you guys. Namaste. And don't forget, it is all about the soul journey. Bye.